Okay, now let's go to prison really quick. El Mero Mero, you had a tattoo. You had all these guys you had to control. And you had all the white guys who were like the Aryan brothers, thank you, who were attacking you guys. So how did you keep it all control? And first off, start with your tattoo. What did that mean?
We actually spent quite a bit of time trying to find the right tattoo for Montana, and we went through hundreds actually of tattoos until we finally saw one. We said, "Wow, that's it." And that was the rosary that ended up with a cross in the middle finger. which to me was perfect because I'm a great Colombian culture of duality, which is something that when he talked about Luis Valdez and Danny and El Teatro Campesino, I was part of El Teatro Campesino. I was a campesino. That's how my family was, which I'm sure is part of the culture of a lot of us here. But anyway, I'm a true testament that Taylor Hackford does make mistakes. He cast me in the movie, and I never was in prison. But I grew up on the border, and obviously Spanish was my first language, and I kept it in defiance of them trying to beat it out of me in school. And in fact, two of the guys that wrote El Libro de Caló, which is about Pachuquismo, were from my hometown. So I know the culture very well like that, from the streets and from being educated. I met Luis actually when I was at the University of California at Berkeley. And I used to pick him up in my 56 Chevy to take him to the college. Then I became a member of his company, and it was when I was with his company where I met Helen Mirren, Academy Award-winning actress, who was working with Peter Brook's company at the time. But anyway, I was probably the last person that Taylor saw for Montana, because all the other guys had already been cast. And he told me, the casting director, when I went in to meet him, he told me right off the bat, "I don't think you're right for this role." I didn't have a beard, and I didn't have I would just dress normal, casual. And I happened to have a portfolio with photographs, and then I flipped through it, and there was one photograph that caught his eye. And it was a photograph that a very intelligent person told me to take, and that was my wife. I had been working out for 6 months. I had a slingshot t-shirt on, and I had my beard trimmed, and I had a black sash that I had tied on, and I took the picture, and when he saw it, he said, "Who is that?" And I said, "Yours truly." So he said, "Hold on a second." He went back and he brought Taylor out. And Taylor said, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I'm gonna give you 6 scenes to memorize, and I want you to come back tomorrow and we're gonna do a screen test. So I went home, and I didn't go to prison to study. But I came back and we screen tested with all the guys. And then he asked me, "I want you to really push Miklo in the scene in the cell." And I said, "What does that mean, right? What am I gonna do to Miklo?" So I did something rather unexpected for him, and when he was complaining, I actually slapped him in the face really hard. And everything went dead quiet. And afterwards, actually, Damien said, I was thinking about killing you, but but it really helped me out. But I will obviously forever be grateful to Taylor's trust in me, not only just for casting me, but also for telling me, "You know this better than I do, so I'm trusting you to bring more to this character than is on the page." And thankfully, because of my love for my culture, and having also had many people in my family who unfortunately have done time, I never have. And so as a result of that was actually what kind of prepared me to be the bilingual actor that Taylor needed, that understood the culture from not only the Chicano perspective, from the pre-Columbian perspective also, which is part of what Jimmy's interest is also. And Jimmy was my celly. He was El Gato. and we got along great. And I challenged Jimmy a lot during the shooting of the film, in terms of his writing also. But that was my experience with the cast. When we went to San Quentin, it was very sobering, yes, to have to sign your life away, and going to the Sally Port where they close the doors in front of you and behind you, and then you hear the chatter of the guys, was very difficult shooting in prison, because those guys are actual prisoners, and when you're trying to do your dialogue, they're screaming obscenities every minute of the day, and they're not going to stop being themselves, because you're a bunch of actors and you say, okay, roll cameras, you know, back to one. We were saying back to one a lot, right? Let's do this again. So it was a very sobering experience, but a very, very worthwhile and a life-changing experience for all of us, I'm sure, that went in there.
Okay, let's talk to some of your prison gang. Prison gang. Okay, you guys were the traitors. Give us, you guys were the traitors. Give us some insight into your characters and how it was doing those roles. Just really quickly, because we have to start the movie very soon.
Well, I played Magic Mike, and I was the warlord of La Onda, and I grew up as a child in a war zone of violence, and so it was the appropriate role for me. And so when I walked around that prison in San Quentin, I said, "There but for the grace of God," because I was headed that way. I was 15 years old, I was 6'2", 200 pounds, a gang member. But I'm the child that the village raised. So my community took me in and was able to change my life. But I was able to call on that violence and to call on that authentic place of anger and not being able to articulate my pain and what I was feeling as a child into the role of Magic Mike. And for a long time I was loyal to the beliefs of Montana, but I saw that it was time to maybe take a different path, and so I think that's when we kind of became a little bit of a Judas in the film. But it's a film that changed my life. It changed my perspective about incarceration. I'm a national spokesperson on ending violence against women, and I talk about blood in, blood out at every speaking engagement that I have when I talk to members of Congress, because violence is a learned behavior, and we're learning them in our homes and in our relationships, and then we're carrying them out into our streets. So if we can stop violence against women, we'll go a long way on ending all kinds of violence.
I have two major takeaways from this experience of being in this film, and as you've heard, there are so many anecdotes and so many stories that we could be here all night sharing, but I just want to say two things about it. One is, and they both have to do with gratitude. I am extremely grateful to the community of this film, and by extension to your community, for having embraced me, because when I was first cast in this movie, I kind of thought it was a mistake, because I am from Panama, and I spent a lot of my early time in the States, in New York. So when I had only been in Los Angeles for about a year, when the opportunity to audition for this came up, and I was a little bit resistant at first, because I thought, what are they talking about? This is a very Chicano movie, and hello. But my agents kept pushing, and I finally went in and I read for it, and I met Taylor. I read with Taylor and Miklo, and I immediately fell in love with them. I thought, oh my God, what nice people. And then the next thing I knew, I got cast, and I really thought that was a mistake. And I felt a little bit out of place, because I thought I felt like the phony in the room. But the embrace and the inclusion that I experienced from this wonderful group of people, and later from you, a community as the audience, has really changed my life. And I am so, so grateful for that. And the second thing I want to say that was a life lesson that I learned from this movie was from Mr. Hackford, sitting over here, because it was a lesson in leadership. Because we spent so much time preparing for the movie and prepping and being lectured, and we went on field trips to San Quentin, and we were lectured by the corrections officers about what to expect, and we thought we were all ready and all that sort of thing. And then we got to the first day of shooting, and I can tell you the first scene we shot was in the dining room, you know, with all of those convicts as extras and everything. That, as Kiki said, as soon as you say quiet on the set, they just go rah, and they get even louder. And it was absolute utter chaos. And I remember that after all of the preparation and all of the everything, that we were ready for that moment when you're trying to get the first scene in the can, and it was chaos. And it was so noisy, and everybody was rehearsed and in place, but paralyzed. And I remember a second of looking around at the crew, at Gabriel with his camera people and everything, and everybody had that deer in the headlights look, like, what have we gotten ourselves into? And there was that moment of, is this ever gonna work? And then Mr. Taylor Hackford stepped up like it was another day at the office and said, okay, everybody, let's roll it, let's go, let's do it, and action. And everybody sort of started going through the thing, and it was the first take, and it was terrible, but it broke the inertia. And I said, that is leadership. Yeah. Oh my God, mero. And I've always tried to remember that when it's my turn to lead.
Yes, so this is my second film that I worked with Taylor Hackford. I was fortunate enough to work in La Bamba with Taylor, which also was an intense movie set. The thing that I took away from this, we didn't mention Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo is one of our Vato Locos. I think he's at either his taco shop or his coffee shop up on Highland. But as Taylor gave us the freedom, along with Freddie, I got to design my tattoo. I got to honor my grandmother who had passed away a few years before that. There was a moment, I don't know if Taylor knows about this, but that there were two cast members, Danny Trejo being one of them, that had spent time in the Pinta. And in hindsight, there's a lot that you can understand. But what I didn't understand at the time was going back to a place where we had the freedom of going in and out, whereas the prisoners do not. And for those two actors, and Jimmy Baca was very honest in saying he felt very strange being back in the joint. And he was dealing with it verbally, and at least sharing that with us. Danny not, and one of the actors not so much. And I called the group, the Onda together, and saying, hey, Taylor is allowing us to improv a lot, but if you watch La Onda, the real guys in prison, they don't say a lot. A lot of it's looks, whatnot, and you know, my life got threatened by another actor, and it really put in perspective what we were actually doing there. And I think it brought a sense of realism and understanding of what actually goes on in there, and if we did our job correctly, that's why I think this film resonates so well. So again, I thank Taylor, I thank Kiki, Valente and I were part of the same theater company, and having our theater background really gave us a foundation and a working platform to start from. So my hat's off to, again, everybody who participated.
And now that you mentioned Danny Trejo, he couldn't be here because he's working, but he sent us a message. So let's hear it.
This is Danny Trejo. I'm in St. Paul, Minnesota. I wanted to give a shout out to all the people that are there. Sorry I couldn't make it, but hey, I'm tougher than all them guys anyway. And La Onda don't shine shoes. Remember that. God bless you guys. Good seeing you. Carmen, what's up, man?
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to hear from two more people, and then we're going to start the movie. We're going to hear from the terrible guard that we all hated. But look at what a nice guy he is. It's Mike Genovese. Mike,
go ahead. To go along with what Jeff was saying, there was a point where the prisoners that we were using as background decided they weren't being treated fairly. That's right. And they said, F you, we're staying in our cells today, we're not working with you. If you want to give us some coffee, some cards, some DVDs to watch, maybe a little chicken soup, a couple of sandwiches, treating us like those actors, then maybe we'll cooperate with you. And I have to assume it was Taylor who said, that's a good decision. And they went, thank you very much, and they became very cooperative. Unions. Unions. It's what makes America great.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, now we want to hear we want to remember that Lupe Ontiveros had a part. Remember Lupe Ontiveros in this movie? Yes. Lupe, you're up there watching us. And also, there was the mother, and also the mother of Miklo. The mother of Miklo. And we want to hear from the lone woman here, because family is at the heart of this movie, and family starts with the mother. So let's hear from Jenny Gabo.
The best for last, Jenny.
It is such heaven to be here with all of you on stage and here with you. To be able to, as an actress, to be able to use our talent as actors in projects that have messages that reveal and free us of with so many insights and so many heartfelt lessons and truth is truly a gift. And I am forever grateful, Taylor, for the project. And when I read the script, I said, oh my God, I have to be in this. I have to. And to see that it has lasted this long, and that it's touched so many hearts. And the most important thing for me is to see how empowering this project truly is, because it frees us, it opens us, and it empowers us to go ahead and be true to our blood. So blood in, blood in.
Blood in, blood. Okay, everyone, please stand up, and let's give them all a big round of applause. Thank you for standing up too. Thank you so much, and get ready to rock and roll with the movie. It'll start in just as soon as we get off the stage. Thank you, everyone. Let's really quick. Okay, we got the pictures. Thank you. We're gonna go off so you guys can start watching the movie. Enjoy the movie. Yes, thank you so much for coming out.
We met in 1968, Henry Roncal.
Right.
You met you then, you were doing writing for PBS.
Right.
I was doing Canción de la Raza.
Right, exactly. KCET. I get the wireless mic again? See you.
Here, let's take a picture. Good job, man. Good job, everybody. Great job, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you, Jeff. Are you happy or taking off? I don't know yet. I'm going to check with the wife. Yeah, all right, man. Thank you, Ray. Carla here? No. Did he make
They said, hey, we brought Gilbert with us. When the vatos no push show. It's like, hey, tenía dark sunglasses. Like, he painted all the real things.
Then I'm the man you want. Mira, 3 puntos like Spider. I'm the boogeyman. Fist in his pants. Pinche vato loco. Come on, carnal. Get the fuck out of here before I make you my bitch.